Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovation Tuesday, a seminar series organized in collaboration between EIT Health, Uppsala University, and University of Groningen. This evening, we have invited a panel to discuss how to combine research with business creation. In our panel, we have Matthew Davies, PhD student at the Department of Civil and Industrial Engineering here at Uppsala University, and also the founder and operator of Dreamscape. We have Alberto Mihranyan, professor at the Department of Material Science and Engineering here at Uppsala University, and the founder and CEO of Envigorea AB. And we also have Anna Franzén with us, who is a collaboration manager at Uppsala University Innovation. My name is Lina Emilsson. I'm going to be your host here this evening, and I'm happy to take any questions from you all through this next 45 minutes. As soon as you get the question, just write them in the chat and I will bring them in to the discussion with the panel. This evening, we're going to start with a short introduction from our three panel participants. We are going to get to know them a little bit, who they are, what they are, their background is, and what they are doing today, and their take on combining research with business creation. And from there on, we move into a discussion around it. So I like to start out with Matthew. Hello, Matthew. Welcome to Innovation Tuesday.
Hey, thanks, Lina. Thanks for having me.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a PhD student focusing in the area of industrial engineering and management. My main study focus, I suppose, is disruptive technologies and their impact on society. So it's basic innovation stuff like how new tech is adopted or spreads throughout society. But it's also answering more interesting questions like how digitalization will change institutional power structures that exist today. I get to work on a lot of diverse and interesting projects. I learned all about new technologies such as AI, blockchain, additive manufacturing, all of those kind of buzzwords that you hear regularly in the news. Originally, I guess I graduated with a design engineering degree from Bournemouth University back in the UK, but I moved to Sweden about 5 years ago. After working as a consultant for a high-tech defense company in the UK. During that time, I was kind of heavily involved in developing innovations and new processes for the company, for the scientists that worked there. So I had this kind of interest in innovation from quite an early start in my career. So when I moved to Sweden, I started studying the Masters here at Uppsala University in the industrial management and innovation field, kind of to continue that interest. My thesis was on the commercialization of alternative energy technologies, and a lot of research at the time was focused on what governments and institutions can do to promote growth in this field. But there wasn't very much from the entrepreneur's perspective. And I very much enjoyed exploring how they kind of operate within and influence the ecosystem around them. And given that that wasn't enough to quell my curiosity, I then started my PhD in the same area about 2 years ago. Yeah, that's kind of me. What I do.
Thank you. Albert, welcome to Innovation Tuesday. And please let us know a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you're doing today. And also I have to unmute yourself.
Yes, sure. I always forget that.
Yes.
So I'm Albert Mihranyan, professor of nanotechnology at Uppsala University. Background in pharmaceutics, but so I did my PhD in formulation, pharmaceutical technology, but have moved to engineering sciences, material science, about 15 years ago here at Tungsten Laboratory at Uppsala University, where I work broader with material science, nanomaterials, especially nanocellulose, but also some other types of materials as well. Now with a strong focus on life sciences applications. So I can combine the bridge between the application and the material science. Innovation has always been something that I was interested ever since I was a PhD. I was involved in several different innovation projects, and now I have started some projects on my own. So the company that you have heard of, Envigoria, it's a company that commercializes a special kind of virus removal filter paper for different applications ranging from production of biologicals, biopharmaceuticals to drinking water purification and possibly nutraceuticals.
Thank you. So that brings us to you, Anna. Welcome to us this evening, to this panel. Please let us know a little bit about yourself, what your background is and what you're doing today.
Thank you, Lina. I'm a pharmacist from the beginning, and I did my PhD actually at the same time as Albert, but in a pharmaceutical biosciences. And after that, I was kind of curious how it was to work within the industry. So I got employment at AstraZeneca in Södertälje in Sweden at the safety assessment department there. So we did kind of early risk assessment very early in the drug discovery phase there. But you know, life happens and you want to maybe have family and these things. I commuted from Uppsala. It took me 4 hours per day. So I changed work. So I got a very interesting job at the medical product agency here in Uppsala, working as a preclinical assessor. And after a while, I got the opportunity to build an innovation office at the agency. So there really my questions regarding innovation took another way. So we really wanted to make it easier for researchers and SMEs to find a good way forward and to make things right from the beginning in this kind of area within life sciences. So I looked around and I found a very good job at Uppsala University Innovation Office, where I am right now. So I've been here for 4.5 years about.
Thank you, Anna. So what we're going to talk about today is to how combine research with business creation. So I would like to start with you, Matthew. Please let us know a little bit about your decision to work as an entrepreneur while doing your PhD. Were you an entrepreneur first, or were you a PhD student at the first? How did your journey start?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess my interest in innovation was kind of academic from the start. So I was always looking at how can I don't know, commercialize research. And I've always been a fan of things like Star Trek and Star Wars and sci-fi and just following developments of new technology. Really, I think when it became more real for me was in the summer of 2018. So just after I'd finished my master's, I took part in an actual EIT Health summer course for gamification on Gotland. And that's where we explored some of the sustainable development goals and some of the ideas around how we could have an impact on those. And we came up with the idea for Dreamscape behind that. And really studying kind of the masters also gave me some practical skills about how I could take ideas through the commercialization process. So I thought, you know, why not give it a go? It's obviously something that I've been learning about, so it'd be nice to do it in practice as well. And I think I've always had that kind of drive to have a little bit more control over my own destiny, if you want to romanticize it a little bit as well.
Thanks. Albert, how was your path into?
Well, I still define myself as a researcher, so research is the main thing that I do. But as I mentioned, since I was a PhD student, I was involved in different innovation projects. I think what these innovation projects provide is the sense of reality and trying to identify the need, whether it is a patient or end user and so on. And I think many of us researchers, we really want to see our research results materialize and become products or new therapeutics, new diagnostic devices, whatever it is that we are struggling for. And I think for most of us, it's also we're a little bit idealistic. So we are not as much there for money, but we really want things to happen and then make difference to people.
So Anna, I'm gonna ask you to take a little bit of a meta perspective here this evening, because I know that you meet a lot of researchers at our university, both PhD students and established 10 years tracks researcher. So how does it normally look when a researcher decides to go into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that is very different depending on the person. So it's very individual. So I would say that it could be a PhD student can come in and have a very good idea and be very skilled and have had these thoughts for a very long time, and as well as a professor. But it also could be that a professor is the first time that they are doing this. So it's not dependent on how long they have been researching, really. It's more of an individual aspect, I think.
So Matthew and Albert, being, you know, one foot in both in the business development part and the research part, what are the pros and what are the cons of conducting both an academic career and a business career at the same time? So any one of you who like to take it are welcome to start, and then I'm going to go through the other one.
So I go first. I can jump
Yeah.
in. Yeah. I think it's quite complementary because being a researcher, you get sort of in-depth technical understanding of what you do. You really know it in and out. And I think to be able to commercialize it properly, you need to understand both the pros and cons of the technology you're developing, but also its potential in the market as well. I think it's probably easier for researchers to learn how to do the business side than it is for business people to learn how to do the research stuff, the deep technical work. As a PhD student, I have a lot of kind of, you know, flexibility with my time as well. And as an academic, you kind of read a lot more around a subject. So you perhaps have transferable skills like doing research with interviews and people like that. So it makes it, I would think, much easier.
So Albert, for your research, what are the consequences for your research activities for, you know, sharing time with building a business also?
Well, that's definitely a challenge. I think doing innovation and entrepreneurship is not for every kind of a researcher. I think there is not one type of researcher. We're all different. We are very unique in our approach and then in our vision. And I think quite often we also pride ourselves on seeing things that others do not find obvious. So it's quite challenging. I think one of the biggest challenges is for us as researchers at university to keep performing on top level as a researcher, which is time consuming in itself, and then to completely change our mindset and go into meetings with the industry, with investors, with end users, and so on. And quite often what I see, and this is probably something that I'm reflecting on within my experience space, is that it's to understand what kind of problem we are solving. So as a researcher, you might find a lot of citations that researchers are trying to solve some problem, and it's quite often based on some citation they see in another work. What happens is that when you go to the industry may not perceive it as a problem at all. So then you get the question back, but what is the real problem that you are solving? And that's a setback because it kind of challenges you and then makes you rethink, and then you have to adapt. So it's challenging in many ways.
So what is, Matthew and Anna, what are your take on this, that what is the problem is different depending on your glasses you have on, the business glasses or the research glasses? What are your takes on this?
Yeah, it's a good point that he raises. I think you have to really be understanding what the customer need is, it's hard to go into it without going into lots of the theory. But if you've got an idea as a researcher, you've done the tech work, you have an idea in your head about how this might be applied. But unless you talk to people about what they actually want and about actually what their pains are, what they hope to gain from your technology, you won't really understand, because you're one person perhaps who's done a bit of research about the technology, not about its applicability in the real world. So you have to have your ear to the ground and really go out and ask people, what is it, what problems do you have with this particular issue or challenge, and how can I help you solve that? And if that technology that you developed does that, that's very good. If it doesn't, then you might need to change your approach completely.
So how do you practically do this, Anna, when you have people coming into Uppsala University Innovation? Like, can you tell us a little bit also about what, Uppsala University Innovation is and what you can support with?
Yes, definitely. So we are the innovation office at Uppsala University, and we really help researchers and students to utilize their ideas. And utilization, you know, you can do that in different kind of ways. Maybe you want to start your own company, have a startup, or you want to collaborate with the industry or any other organization, or you want to out-license if you have intellectual property that you want to out-license. So it's a different kind of ways to utilize your ideas. And usually if you are kind of a beginner, haven't done this journey before, the first question really is, what kind of pathway do you want to take in this? And so the best thing is that we take a first meeting with researcher or student and try to find out how much knowledge do they have from the beginning, and what kind of help do they need. So we try to map a little bit and validate the commercial potential of the idea and the research. So that's the really first step, so to say. And then we have connections with the other innovation system in Uppsala. We have a very good incubator here. They have very good programs made for people that want to build their own startups. So we try to get people in the right direction, so to speak. And we have a small funding as well that we can support. You know, funding is very important aspect in this as well.
So what is the majority of researchers getting support with when they come to you? What is the most common job you do for researchers?
Well, being maybe a stubborn part that asks all the questions, and there's so many different things that you need to get track on and get hold on. So it could be a bit difficult to do this on your own. So we support and we try to encourage, but we also encourage the researchers and students to do this on their own. We are a support unit, so we don't do the work, but we try to help as much as we can and get tips and these sort of things.
So Matthew and Albert, have you been working with Uppsala University Innovation or some other support system in Uppsala ecosystem for entrepreneurship? And what have you been working with them, and why did you go to them? When did you know it was time?
If I could go first. Yeah, so I took the idea from, we had basically this 2-week course in summer 2018 in Gotland, and then I took the idea to UIC, which is based in the Science Park in Uppsala. And I think that's the accelerator that Anna was mentioning. They were very, very good at doing all stages of what's called the business model canvas in a lot more detail. And that's really a kind of tool that you use to explore all the different facets of your idea, such as who are the key stakeholders that are involved, what's your unique value proposition, and try and, you know, bring you into the language that is used by investors and other people who talk about entrepreneurship, but also identify gaps in your knowledge. So there are things that you may not have even thought about before looking at this particular tool, which is helpful to kind of identify where you need to go and find information from. So if you haven't spoken to any potential customers before, that'll help you build the questions and identify who you need to go and speak to. So for me, that was a very kind of enlightening process because although I'd studied it in my education at my master's, I hadn't actually used it in practice. And often doing things in practice, again, you learn a lot of lessons that you kind of make use of through the journey.
Can you give us one of the lessons that you really would like to pass forward?
I think my biggest takeaway is just to go and do it and actually get out there, because you can spend ages perfecting a plan and thinking that you've got something right. And then you go and test it with somebody who would actually be interested in your idea and they think, oh, no, that's not kind of how I would like it. So my best advice, I think, is just to get stuck in, go out there and actually try and validate your assumptions.
So Albert, how many people do you need to talk to really understand what the problem is? And how did you go about to really understand what the problem was that your filters, your nanoparticle filter could address?
Well, I think you have to talk to many people people have different perspective on life, on concepts and different visions. I think it's important to talk to people who share your visions, also not to be discouraged by the criticism. One of the biggest take-ons is to try to understand, is it another Me Too product or concept that you're trying to develop, or is it something that is groundbreaking? And even if it is groundbreaking, it's not an obvious thing that it will be a success, because everyone has to be prepared to accept this groundbreaking innovation as well. What I can also add on the previous topic is that Uppsala University Innovation is a fantastic organization that we have, and my experiences with them are almost, I don't know, maybe 20 years or something. And there is always something new to learn, some new people to talk to, because people there also change, develop, so they come with another angle, and you can get help on all kinds of aspects, anything from patents to business development, to funding, to verification, and even if you need someone just to ventilate your ideas, I don't know, an innovation psychologist, so it could be a very good thing to do. Just go and talk to people. I think that's the best way to verify your ideas.
So if you were going to give some recommendation, I know that we have a few people here who are just about to start their journey. Some have a PhD position, getting into it, but they also have, entrepreneurship ambitions. So what would your recommendation be? How would they pursue? How would they work further, to eventually reach a goal of combining their research activities with an entrepreneurship career?
Well, if the question is to me, so
we go to Matthew and then we go to Anna. I think this is an interesting one from all.
So I would say try to identify what is your role. So if you think that you are playing football, try to understand if you are the goalkeeper or the forward. You can't be both. And as a researcher, I think we have so many tasks to go through. And when we try to be also entrepreneurs, I don't know, build companies, be the CTO, CFO, and CEO at the same time, it's a little bit too much. So I think to try to understand what is your role now and what is going to be in the near future, because that will save you a lot of energy and spare from frustration.
Matthew, what do you say?
Yeah, I think I would echo that advice as well. It's quite a deep question. And again, it's very specific depending on the kind of area of research that you do. But generally, I think probably try and coming up with a strong vision about what your research means for the world. And I wouldn't worry too much about the business model per se at that moment in time, but more thinking about we talked about it a little before, the potential problem that it solves and for whom it creates value. A lot of the time, it's much easier to build a business when you have a market pull situation. So you have an obvious or easily identifiable customer, but it does require a lot more thinking, and the commercialization part looks a bit different if you have a unique technology or process but no market demand. And there are different ways you kind of overcome those challenges as well. But just to echo it one more time, once you've done this and you kind of have a bit more of an exploration or an understanding of the need, then go and speak to the people in the sort of local innovation ecosystem, such as Anna in UUI or people at UIC, and really, get different perspectives to analyze and look at it with you.
So Anna, what do you say? Do you have any to add or to?
Yes, I would like to stress that as well. At peace, and you can't come too early. So come and discuss with us, and we take it from there. I think that is pretty important. And I also think that to be really successful, your own motivation is really, really important. That's what we can see. So define for yourself why you want to do this. And that I think is also important. And please, 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 please don't do it on your own. Make sure that you have a team around you. And as Albert also said, what is your role in this team? And maybe you are the technical expert and things like that. But maybe you need a project leader, or maybe you need an entrepreneur, or maybe you need something else. So make sure that you network, and that you can do very, very early. So network, meet people, and really build your team. I think that is really important.
So at the same time as you are an academic researcher, you are building a company, you should be networking also on top of it. Yes. So how to get all of this? How can you give some, because everybody's talking about networking and the importance of networking, the importance of team. Can you give some tips on how to do networking effectively? What is good networking and what is bad networking? We go to Anna and then Matthew and Albert, if you had something to add to that.
Yes, I think that good networking is really to dare to ask questions and to ask what you ask for, what you need. So you don't have to go to these mingle parties and talk about football or anything less. Just tell them what you need. I think that is a very good tip. And we have a mentor program at UU Innovation, and we have in that mentor program we have an excellent networking person who talks, and he says that ask, and you will get answers. And ask your friends. Maybe they know someone that knows someone. So dare to ask what you need.
Okay, so it's important to ask direct questions. Be transparent on what you need and what you're going for and who you are and what you're doing. But Matthew, how do we know where to network? You know, there are networking opportunities everywhere. How do you pick your network, your fora for your forums for networking?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of have been interested in the subject, so I've been a bit around the sort of local scene, local ecosystem, but going to places like UIC, you can find them on Google, you can find them in UUI. There's a place called Base 10, which is like a co-working space. And I think most entrepreneurs are very open and very happy to help because that's what they get enjoyment with, right? So just contacting other people who are in a similar situation and maybe then you can help each other. It's like doing kind of favors for one another. Passing information around.
So Albert, I know when I'm out in this different, 2013, I decided to expand my academic world and go into the private sector and work also. And I found it was like two very different worlds. So from your perspective, Albert, who are really, been an active, professor, your tenure, your career is very established in the academia. Have you found the areas, the fora different and hard to move into the business world where you can network for business creation?
Yes, it's definitely a different world, and then as I mentioned earlier, it requires a different mindset. So on the previous topic, how to network, what is most common for us researchers is to network when we are at the conferences. And we might meet people from the companies there as well, who are from the technical side, who are from the R&D. But the trick is to talk to people from the business development too, and probably to talk more with the business development people, because you might find a researcher who shares the passion for the technology. But if you don't break through the business development people, you will not succeed. And then learning how to talk to these people, because you may be very passionate about your technology, but the technology may not be cost efficient. It may be another Me Too product. It may not be this one special thing that the company requires. And then these kind of mindset, that is, what is the value that you're creating? What is the need that you're creating? And then another challenge is, this is if you are going to talk to the companies, to the industries, if you're talking to the investors and pitching, it can quite often be that you focus too much on the technology, but not how these people are going to make the money, because the technology is just a means. They are there to make the money. So try to speak their language. And this is the part that is difficult. You have to accept the mindset of the people that you are talking to. So with the researchers, it's probably the research. With the business development, it's the added value. With the investors, how they're going to make the money. And that is challenging.
Can you share some of your own experience where you really run into this challenge of, being maybe too academic, and then how you went around it to really reach the heart of the investor or the partners that you needed for your business? Do you have any of these experience, Albert? that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, for sure. I think it's just happening all the time. I'm a little bit more aware of these things. So the natural way for me, a pitch is actually a presentation, no different from a conference presentation within a very limited time. But the audience and the goal of the presentation are completely different. As a researcher, you want to go into all these fancy details of the technology and how great it is and so on. But in reality is that you have to take a step back. So not to have it too intensive on the technology, not to have too many of the scientific terms and so on. Speak very clear language and then really appeal to your audience. This is something that happens all the time. I might be aware of it, but even if I were to go and meet new people and try to pitch what we do, I might still be biased and try to push too much on the technology side. So I think it's very important to be aware of these situations.
So Matthew, do you have any recommendation for anyone, moving into the business world and are completely in love with their development that they've done in the academia? How can they, twist their mind to know what to do and how to act to actually make it commercializable? Is that a word?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, it's a problem actually that we run into as entrepreneurship researchers all the time when we study new ventures. A lot of the time, researchers are very married to their technology and to their original idea. And I think you have to really focus on being open to change and being open to pivot towards whatever the customer needs. Otherwise, you can have a great invention. It could be the best technology in the world, but if there's no customer need or no focus for it, then it's very hard to get it off the ground. I think my first advice would be kind of just make sure that you stay open and listen to what your customers are saying. Don't be closed-minded and just think, okay, this is not the right customer for me, find somewhere else. You have to kind of really take the feedback on board. And okay, it might not be the right customer, but don't ignore it completely, because all feedback, even if it's negative, is useful for you.
There is another thing the four of us have in common, and it's EIT Health. So I would like to talk a little bit about it, because I know that both Matthew, Albert, you both have had support and worked with EIT Health. And Anna, you and I, we are, meeting every week because we're working with EIT Health. So can we start with Anna to just tell, what support can a researcher get from EIT Health today?
I think that the greatest advantage of EIT Health is the network. So EIT Health consists of about 150 different partners in Europe. So there you have your scene. So I think that is really, really good. And then we have different programs within EIT Health that help you with your startup. There are different boot camps, there are business creation weekends, there are different kind of tools that you can use and that you can apply for funding. If you have come a little bit further on the line, there are also innovation projects which are built really on collaboration. And we haven't talked so much about collaboration, but that is also something that you see when you are seeking funding. All funders today really emphasize collaboration. So that is also something that is really, really important. So I would say the network and the funding opportunities within EIT Health. So have a look at the homepages and things like that, what's going on. I think that is the best thing. But Matthew and Albert, you have more on hands-on experience.
Yeah. So Albert, I know you had financial support for your enterprise from EIT Health. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it, how you got it and what it meant and how you're working with it and what your recommendations are going through?
Well, EIT Health and the EIT in general, it's a fantastic idea and organization that we have in Europe. It's really great because it's fostering collaborations and then providing research. And it sets really high goals. I think what is really great about EIT Health is that they really want to put the patient in focus, and then they really want to bring European technology to the front. To bring the technologies that make difference for the patients. In our project, it was fantastic. It has challenged me in many, many ways. I wouldn't say it has been an easy way because we had to do our best all the time. We have to report quite a lot and we are pushed to really perform. but it's fantastic. For us, what was important is that it opened the possibilities to do kind of tests and verifications, let's say validations, technical validations, that are very difficult to implement purely in a research environment, with real life industrial setting samples and then in real life industrial settings. So our partners were Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, and then we have been collaborating with sites in Germany, in US, and this was really great. And we had tested our platform from many different angles, both on small scale and on a larger scale, on pilot scale. And many of these things that we did, it has made us realize how important things like quality control are, how to be in control of our processes, the regulatory approval, and so on. So there are many things we researchers do not necessarily address in our everyday research life. But EIT Health, because it has the goal to bring the technologies and companies closer to the market, it's kind of forcing you to take on these problems. And this is a really great asset.
So for a fellow researcher that you would recommend, when would you say, how do they know that it's a good idea to apply from support from EIT? How will they find out if they should take that pathway?
I would say that go and talk to the Uppsala University Innovation early, and then try to identify your partners early too. Because there are these very special meetings where different partners from European Union can meet, and they can exchange ideas, and then they can find new ways. You might rethink some of the ideas you had, and then find some partner that would be even better for your constellation. So really to plan for it and then go for it early.
So what is a partner, and how do you find a partner? How do you know what a good partner is?
There are partners. I think Anna is more qualified to answer, but there are partners who are like a member of the big EIT Health family, and then there's who are external. So what EIT Health likes is that the partners that are the big part of the family, and as Anna mentioned, there are more than it's almost 200 different partners from all over Europe with all kinds of backgrounds, small companies, large companies, hospitals, every aspect of healthcare innovation is kind of reflected there. So you will definitely find someone who is on the same wavelength as you, and you can go and innovate and then enrich your experiences and come to common goals.
So before I go to Matthew, Anna, how do you find the partners? Because it sounds just go and find them, but actually how do a researcher find a partner within the EIT Health network?
Yes, so I would suggest, as Albert said, contact myself or my colleague Susanne Bödenberg. She's in here as well. So we have contact details to the network, so we can help you. If you haven't had any contacts with any partner before, we can help you with that. And we can try to specify, do you want to have test your product for validation within a clinician, or do you want a company partner or a university partner? So we can help you to get that contact details.
So Matthew, let's go back now. You came into EIT from a different angle. You didn't come in as a researcher per se. You came in more as a student into the education system, as I understood it. Is that correct?
Yep, sure. I had just finished my master's basically, and we had the summer free as a student to do all sorts of interesting things. And actually we decided that this summer gamification course looked very, very interesting. And it was sponsored by EIT Health. And the idea was that we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals and tried to solve some of the problems that we saw that were identified to us using gamification.
So have you had any contact with EIT Health after this course?
I keep in touch with some of the people who were on that course, actually. And one of them is the ambassador, I think, for the Nordic region, perhaps. She was on my course in the Millie program. And I also keep in touch with some of the other alumni through the newsletter as well.
Okay. So you're part of the EIT Health alumni system?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So let's get back to combining research and and academic business development. So we have a few more minutes. We have 5 more minutes. So let's talk a little bit about, what you can pass forward. What is the most important thing to succeed as an entrepreneur and as a researcher? So what are your take on that? You can start, Matthew, to say, like, what do you think is the most important thing for you to be able to combine this, that you would like think about this if you're going to go into this career path, dual career path?
Yeah, it's a very deep question, actually. I think we touched on it before, but the sort of drive and passion for making a change or an impact, maybe it's my, again, romantic view of being an entrepreneur, but like, I searched for a career that is meaningful in some way. And I think many researchers also choose that career because they want to do something meaningful and interesting and help the world become a better place. So for me, learning about all these different ways of bringing value into the world, entrepreneurship is probably a very well matched path for that. And for any researchers out there thinking about doing it, I would strongly recommend just getting involved and getting in touch with either myself or Albert or Anna, just to broaden your horizons and learn more about what it means.
But if you were going to give some specific advice, what is the most important factor to be able to combine the academic work with the business creation, what would it be?
Come back to me in 2 minutes. I'll just have a think about that for a second.
Okay, we pop up to Albert. What do you say about that? What is for you the most important factors to be able to combine research work with academic work with business creation?
Well, of course, I am biased. I'm talking from my experiences, but I try also to reflect on the companies that I see in our ecosystem. Some other professors that have started companies and how they have worked, and then those who succeeded and then those who didn't. I would say that 2 factors are really critical, and it's probably going to everything that you will do, whether it's research or not. So one would be persistence, the other one would be the team, the people that you have around you. So I think without these factors, it will be very, very difficult to succeed. And business is definitely a team sport. It's not a marathon that you're running on your own.
We're going to come into that, Anna, but we're going to pop in with a question from Cord here, who writes, what is the most common reason why new businesses that originated from universities fail or not even get funded in the first place? Who would like to take Cord's question to start? Just wave your hand and you get the question. Anna, please.
No, I can take the experience that we have because we meet so many researchers at EIT Innovation. So we talked about it a bit before, but you need to keep track on both the need, the approach, the benefit, and the competition. And as Albert said, researchers usually focus too much time on the approach. So if you can't prove the impact that your research will do, if you can't prove that your knowledge about the field, about the market, about the need, you won't get funded. So these are very, very important things. And we try to help researchers with this. There are some tools that we help them with to kind of sort out these things, I would say.
Matthew, Albert, would you like to add something to Cord's question?
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of message, actually. When I studied, there's some research done on new ventures, and I think only 3 succeed out of 10, say. And the reason for that is because researchers focus too much on the technology rather than the customer need. And they aren't able to pivot and change with the information that they find. They're too kind of, the confirmation bias kicks in and goes, no, it's not my technology that's got a problem. It's the kind of, this customer doesn't just get the idea. So you need to really be open to switching and finding and navigating your way through the massive marketplace of ideas, and keep focusing on, where can I add value, or where can I add the most value?
So it's 1 minute left. Albert, do you have something to add before we wrap up this evening?
No, I think both Matthew and Anna have already mentioned most of the things that I wanted to say. I just see that there is one more question from Margareta.
Yes, you can have a quick answer to our Margareta's question. And please read it also, because we...
Yeah, how do you build a team? How can you trust people around you? It's a very difficult thing, but it's very important. So I have seen some of the professors that they let the business development be taken over by their former PhD students or postdocs. It could also be that there are people in the Uppsala innovation ecosystem who are used to working with business development, that they join these innovation projects. But I think in any case, it's very important to find someone who is willing to invest time in business development and not only being this researcher and so on.
So I can see that we have more questions coming into the chat, but we're going to wrap up the first session now. But please, everyone, stay after so we can, we will be here a little bit while longer and can go through the questions. But we're going to wrap up this session tonight. And thank you for the panel to us here that joined us and to everyone who asked questions. And your questions will still be answered if you tag on a little bit longer after we wrap up. But we're going to have one more Innovation Tuesday, and it's next Tuesday, and it's going to be from Groningen. And I can see that we have Olga here with us today. Would you come in a bit, Olga, and tell us about what's going to happen tomorrow? Or no, next week, not tomorrow.
Tomorrow, nothing is going to happen as usual. And we indeed meet next week, next Tuesday, with the speakers that we have already met. This is Hobby Tam and Hobby Tam. and Tanya Kalona, and these are entrepreneurs who have just finished a 10-month-long negotiation for funding, and they are going to go through this experience and share really hands-on tactics, problems, challenges, solutions about this negotiation process. So that is going to be one story, not a panel, but still very much going in depth and showing a lot of tricks and challenges that entrepreneurs have to face in their work.
So with that, we thank you everybody for this evening, and we'll meet in a week at the next Innovation Tuesday. Have a good week until then. Bye.